Welcome to Pixel Composer 1.18.8. Let's see what's new in this version. So, in terms of new nodes, we don't have that much. First, we have the pixel extract node. This is similar to the palette extract, but it will output every single pixel in the image as a palette. As you can see here, the output will depend on the size of the surface, so be really mindful, very careful when using this node with larger surface. If you only want to extract some color from the surface, you can use the palette extract instead. Next will be a tag system. We have two nodes here. We have the tag surface and the tag compose or the composite tags. What it does is that it allows you to tag a pixel or position in your image. You can name the tag and then you can put it on the image or the image array, and when you combine it with the composite tags, it will automatically align the tag together, so you don't have to do like manual adjustment. Then we have node related to 3D stuff. First, we have the 3D part camera. So we already have the 3D part system. Right now, the 3D part camera will take the 3D part object and it output as a 2D part that you can use in other node like the draw line node. Another node is 3D mesh extrude, which is different from the surface extrude, right? This one will take in the mesh object or mesh data and then extrude it out as a 3D object. Now this mesh data is not very common. I think there's only two nodes that output the mesh data. One of them is the draw shape polygon. Another node is, I think, is a part to mesh that will convert the part data into a mesh that you can then be used in this mesh extrude as well. And lastly, we have the delay values. So we already have delay node. That node will delay or shift the animation frames based on the frame amount you set here. Now the delay value node works exactly the same way, but with a non-surface data. When you select the node, you will see that on the timeline here, it will also show which frame is displaying. And for this node to work best, you might want to run the animation once first, so that it can store all the values. And that is for the new node. Now we have the number of improvement to the already existed node. For the 3D camera and 3D camera set, we have a number of new passes. We have the diffuse pass, the shadow pass, and the ambient occlusion or AO passes that you can use for further composition. And we have a tool in the 9 slice node, which will change the preview to preview the original surface instead of the output surface, which can be really useful when you want to adjust the slice, because if you set it to the output, sometimes it can be like kind of hard to understand what's going on, right? Then in the draw text node also got an edit text tool, which allow you to edit the text directly in the preview area. And the blend node and the composite node also got a preview improvement. When you are previewing this node and then you inspect other node like the 9 slice node, you will see that the control gizmo, the control editor here, will now transform relatively to where you set the position in this node. And that extends to other editor as well, like the text editor will now also work better. Now there are limitations to this system. One is that it only supports transformation of position and uniform scale only. So if you try to do like non-uniform scale, you will see that things will get weird, right? And if you try to add rotation into the mix, then it will just be off. There's no way to fix this yet. It will require like a rewrite of the entire preview system. Then we have the new weight paint system for the mesh rig node. So now you will have an option to bake the mesh, right? You can do auto weight first to automatically detect the weight. And then you can go to the bake mesh. You will get two new tools, the weight brush and the weight eraser. As the name suggests, it will allow you to adjust the weight directly. You select the bone and then you can now paint the weight that you want. You can now erase the weight, adjust the size, the intensity of the brush, and after you make an edit, you can then click normalize weight to make sure that the sum of all weight in all bones equal to 1. If you don't do this, it might cause some error when you try to post it. And this should give you more granular control over the rigging system. The canvas node also got some slight improvement to the frame system. You can now duplicate the frames in the right click menu. You can now rearrange the frame by clicking and dragging, which is something you cannot do before, surprisingly, but you can now. Yay! The image input node also got a new cache option here. You can click on it and it will store the image information inside your save file instead of using the file link, which can be useful if you want to share your project to other people without having to share like the original image as well. Of course, it will make your save file bigger. The plot part also have an option for a 3D part output. You can now add extra equation to control the depth of the part in 3D. And the HLSL node also got a new input that allows you to write a code outside the main function. So you can use it to define variable or add new function that you can then reuse inside the main part. And there's now new library system. When you click on it, you're gonna see that there's two parts here. The global library here is a library defined by the app data folder. For example, here we have the math library, right? Which only have a very basic testing library. You can now go to the preprocessor and you can say using math. And now when you compile it, you're gonna see that it will import the math library automatically and you can call it directly in your shader. And then we have improvement on user interface. First is for global variable. And make it a little bit easier to use. Now you can right click on any values and there's an option to extract to global variable. Click on it and it will just create new global variable and then call it directly. There's now also an option here to use global variable here, right? It's just gonna list all the available global variable that you can then use directly. The global variable editor also got some improvement. It should look a little bit nicer and work a little bit nicer now. When you create a new node, it will now also automatically select and drag that node by default, and you can select where to place it. You can even put a node in between a connection, and you will see that the connection light up, and then you place on top of it, it will just automatically connect in between the node. There's also now a new thing I call node chord, which is basically an option here that you can use to quickly change the parameter inside the node while selecting it, which can make it easier and faster for you to create a node that you want. One thing that I use a lot is a gradient. I can basically rotate it to any orientation I want before I place it down. Then we have a visual improvement on the color picker. The default font now include the accent version of the Latin alphabet, and there's an improvement on the Windows IMDE input, which is stuff like the Chinese, Japanese, Korean input should now be accepted. You will still need a custom font for it to display correctly though. And as usual, we have a series of bug fix in this version. And that will be all for today. Thank you everyone for watching. Special thanks for every Patreon supporter and see you in the next one.